What's up? I'm Jack Taylor, and this is Talkin Sports with my dad.
And I'm the dad. I'm Jeff Taylor. Now on this show, we talk sports.
Yeah, it's sort of like a spring-winter debate. In spring, there's rebirth, excitement, new starts. That really represents me. Now, he's winter. That's cold, achy joints, frozen ground for you to fall and break your hip on, and end-of-year blues.
Wow, really? All right. Hey, but winter also brings Christmas time. Best time of the year. Pinkish hue, rosy face. I'm good.
Sure. All right, if you say so. Now, today we're going to talk about the new college football playoff format, college basketball teams turning down postseason tournaments, old school scouting versus new school analytics.
We'll also debate the GOAT QB of the Dallas Cowboys, whether women's tennis players should earn the exact same as the men's purse, and we'll also debate what is the greatest sports trophy in history.
This is a segment we like to call Old Dog, New Tricks. Let's see if we can teach them a few.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Old? I'm pure breed. The question becomes this: the new college football playoff, good thing or bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. I think that there's been a clamoring for an expansion of the playoff format, especially if you go away from when you just had the championship. Right?
Okay.
It was just 1 and 2.
Right.
If you're going to have the semifinals, it was just really not enough. Now, we've talked about this before. I do think, though, while there is a good thing, I don't think jumping to what they did as quick as they did and that many teams was a good thing.
I agree with you there. You know, it's a two-edged sword, and I think that just is, I don't mind it, but let's leave it there. Let it, cook for a couple of years, and then go from there. Like, I've heard let's expand it to 14, 18, 32, and then you start to take away from what, and that's another whole topic, whether there are too many bowl games. But bowl games are special, and I think, to add to some of the New Year's Day games or the other games after New Year's, I think that's kind of a cool thing to have. So I like it. I think it's a good thing to just have 1 and 2. And the cool part about it is, when you get into seeds, you can always kind of have the upsets, which everybody loves to see. So I think it does give everybody a chance, those however many that are in there now, to be able to play.
Yeah,
it's
12.
12, yeah. To have those 12 to get a shot. Now the question becomes, at what point, do you throw in the non-power? That's the conversation of Power 5 versus non. The big schools, the smaller schools. Who knows in terms of that?
I think they have to do so many different things with it. A, they have to reseed, right? They cannot have it to where you have the top Power 4 conference winners or the top 4 conference winners being 1, 2, 3, 4. Arizona State, getting
right.
Like that
right.
does not need to happen. You need to reseed once you get in there and just say,
agreed.
The 4 and 5 conference winners do get automatic bids,
right?
But then everybody else, it should just be, and even when they get in, it's still reseeded. Outside of that as well, I think that you need to make it to where the the first entry games and the semifinal games are not bowl games. Having the quarterfinal games be bowl games diminishes the rest of the yes, it diminishes the rest of the slate of the teams that don't get into the playoffs.
Really?
Because they're already big games. You can have the semifinals and the championship.
So let the playoffs be separate of the bowl games.
You can have the semifinals like you had before. Like when the semifinals before, when they had.
But
just
if you're going to do quarter,
teams.
you might as well do semi.
No, because quarter is still so many. Because the first round, they weren't bowl games. The
Right.
first round was just a home field advantage,
got it.
and there was no bowl game, no title for it. You can still have the sponsorship around it, but they don't need to be. You don't need to take the Rose Bowl and make it a quarterfinal game. That diminishes not only the Rose Bowl, but it diminishes the quarterfinal games and the teams like we'll take my alma mater, South Carolina. They got the Citrus Bowl. That was the only one left that was actually worth its salt. The rest of them don't have any sort of weight to them outside of the playoffs. Right. So you can make the last 4, the semifinal games, the Rose Bowl, the Peach Bowl, all that kind of stuff. But outside of that, leave it as is.
I agree. I think it's a good thing, and we can agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good thing. All right, Jack, time for my favorite topic, and it's called I Know I'm Right.
Do you, though? I don't know if you do.
I'm right.
That's also my favorite topic because I know I'm right. So we're talking about, is it wrong for teams to turn down NIT or other basketball postseason tournaments for college basketball?
That's a tough one. I'm not even sure we should even have the other postseason tournaments. I mean, you don't want to take away from March Madness. It is one of the most electric sporting events of the year. You have your 60 whatever it is 8 now for the 4 that can play in. But to me, you get in the NIT, and then there was another one this year I can't remember. And if you want to turn it down, yes. Because if you're not in the big dance, do you really want to be dancing at all?
So I'll counter that with a point we just talked about. Why have bowl games? What's the purpose of a bowl game then?
Well, but bowl games are part of the history of college football.
Okay, and
period.
So NIT, CBT, obviously the crown is newer, but it still gives them something to play for when they don't make the big dance.
But if you have a chance at the national championship and you're in the big dance, and I know it can happen, but let's say, I don't know, you're somebody from, hypothetically Duke, and you take Cooper Flag, like he gets hurt in an NIT.
Okay.
And ruins an NBA career.
Okay.
Like,
but a lot of the times
NIT,
now,
like, look at I would love to know, and I don't know, I'll pull it up. What are the ratings for the NIT? Does anybody watch the NIT?
I think the problem is, it shouldn't
or the Crown or whatever the ones you call.
We shouldn't dictate it based off of the ratings that you have for the because that competition exists well.
We may not, but the television networks.
I agree with that, but what I'm saying is that you're getting to a point now where you have to give these teams something to have, because especially in basketball, we saw with March Madness the amount of rosters for the Elite Eight where they showed where their players were at the beginning of their college careers as opposed to where they are in that moment.
Right.
So these guys are transferring from small schools to go to these big schools because they get the best money, they get the best competition.
Right.
So if you don't even give these small schools, UNC Charlotte, like these tiny schools, a chance to have anything to play for, these players that are already going to be transferring have really no reason to stay.
But you have a chance to make the big dance. Like
you do
win your tournament and get in.
You do, but then you should get punished for it's not a lesser. Because no one sits there and boasts those trophies, but they'll still hang a banner up.
But we see more and more. South Carolina, they said no this year.
Yeah.
To the NIT.
And I think that was a wrong thing to do. You build your competition.
Does it lend? Hold on, let me stop you. Does it lend itself to just like, well, you're not good enough to go there, so we'll just kind of a sympathy type deal.
It's the same thing with bowl games. You could say. You're not good enough to get to the college football playoffs, but we'll give you a bowl game.
Yeah, but I just think the bowl games are part of college history that the NIT and all that are not. I don't know.
Your argument then is saying that if the tournaments existed earlier in basketball, it would be the same thing. Dad, remember the old days, like when you were a kid? What was that? The 40s, the 50s, right? Yeah?
I know I got a grade, but come on.
Grade is an understatement. All right, you had wooden tennis rackets.
They were awesome.
The flat back Converse All-Star basketball shoes. You had
the originals, the OGs.
No comms in the football headsets. Not good at all. So let's get into this. That was well before my time.
The fancy gear doesn't mean the athletes weren't just as good.
Okay.
Maybe they were even better, I think.
Okay.
Well, so we'll do. So here's the question. Has the advancement in sports technology made it so athletes don't have to be as talented as they once were?
Okay, that's interesting, because I think you have to break down what you talk about when it comes to sports technology. Are we talking about equipment, like with the bats that are having this year in MLB?
Right.
These rocket bats that they've got, clearly it has an impact when the Yankees are hitting 6 home runs right off at the top of the year. Or if you're talking about the analytical side, what in also baseball, golf, how they can track the hit boxes, their swings, their lies, all that kind of stuff does allow for you to know a lot more about it. But then if you're talking like football and just like better helmets and better pads, I don't think there's any difference.
Well, the better helmets, we can go along the lines of concussion.
Yeah.
And safety issues.
But it doesn't make them better athletes. It makes them safer athletes.
Well, it makes them safer athletes. Well, but maybe they decide they're going to hit a little harder because they have a helmet that can take it. I don't know. I'm going to go to like golf.
Okay.
Like, I do not like hitting my irons. I just don't.
Okay.
But you can buy sets now that are all hybrids.
Yeah.
You can have a hybrid pitch and wedge. Mm-hmm. But you think about drivers nowadays, whether, whatever company makes their drivers, they're almost so incredibly big.
Yeah.
You can't miss.
This is true.
So I think along the lines of golf, the technology, you have an old bag with, I think, wood.
Yep.
With, the
wooden clubs.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't hit that.
No.
But I can take my clubs. You know what I'm getting at? So I think in terms of like that sport, in terms of golf, I think the advancement in technology has certainly helped the game itself, not only for the athletes, but just the average Joe who wants to go out and play.
Yeah.
But you think about technologies otherwise, are the shoes better? Are the high tops better than the old Chuck Taylor? What I'm saying? Old Chuck Taylors. But and the bats, I get all that. You go wooden versus aluminum and all that, and how do you improve a bat?
You do. They have. They did.
I know,
these rocket bats had the same way you can have it with the give of the swing of golf.
But I think too. You mentioned the technology too. I think the computer systems nowadays, the way the analytics breaks down, you can look at your swing through computers and all of that, and how you kind of adjust that away. That technology.
I think there's a lot more that you can do in the preparation phase. Maybe not in the actual game, but you go to golf, you go to NASCAR, having simulators for both courses and tracks in golf. Now even basketball, it's still new, but they've got it to where you can display court projections onto the court, so you can see exactly where on that court you would be playing at. So I think that's really cool. But then also on maybe the health side, there's a lot more different advancements of how we can keep players healthy that I think allows them to play longer, play harder, play faster.
So I think we both agree technology, good thing for sports.
Yeah, I would agree so, absolutely.
All right, Jack, time for how they did it back in my day when life was simple.
Simple's an understatement. All right, times have changed, Dad. So we're going to talk
A little bit.
A lot. So let's talk Moneyball. The debate is old school scouting versus new school analytics. What's your thought process?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think at the end of the day, when you think about old school scouting, I think just the human connection and the eyes of a human watching it is a great thing. And I think the thing that analytics can't pick out is when you have scouts who sit down with a player and talk through things.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't worry about the analytics. They're going to get to know the person. They're going to know who they are, their life stories.
Yeah.
Back in the day. So I think old school scouting, that way, finding out who the person is, what type of athlete they are, watching them actually out on the court and not getting into all the numbers and all that. I like that.
No, I think it feeds into the technology debate we were having, right? Because those analytics, they're just on paper, right? You can obviously watch the tape, you can watch what happens, but the amount of time they might get on the track, or they might get in the simulator, or they might get in the golf simulator, or what have you, depending on different sports, can be the same for another player or another, racer, driver, what have you. And it might come down to what you think more about their mindset than anything else. And I think where it absolutely now is going to have more of an impact is college football. When you talk, and college sports in general, when you talk about NIL, because you look at Nico with Tennessee. Anything from analytics would have told you he's a great quarterback and should do well at Tennessee, whether he fits into the system or not.
Right.
But everything from his personal profile, I'm not talking about the person he is, but the area he grew up in. He's not from Tennessee. He's not from the back roads of Tennessee.
Sure.
He's from Southern California. And where did he go back to?
Right.
Southern California.
Right.
Where did he want to go back to? Southern California. So I think now coaches will have to use and really lean on that old school scouting, especially with NIL, to say, is this guy going to stay at our program? Because he fits our system, because he likes our system, because he meshes well with us as a team, because if he's throwing the ball, he can throw the same as Jacob Aguilar, and we might get the same output come next season.
Well, and even when you think about maybe recruiting players and all that other stuff, even taking it to game time with analytics nowadays, where every team has like an analytics guy.
Yeah.
On 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 15, it says you should do this.
Yeah.
How does that bring into play what players you have? You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Like, who knows what type of players you have? We don't know whether it's, who you've got on the field, whether they can successfully throw it 15 yards and get off the ball. And I think when you get into that, you take away the human factor. And I think there's just something about sports as a whole that when you start taking away the human factor, you get a little,
I agree.
You're towing a fine line.
I agree. All right, it's that time. Ready for some GOAT talk with Dad?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Dad, let's go. We're going to talk about and switch it up, actually, right?
If you want to.
Yeah?
I was looking to see maybe what the title was going to be. Are you scaring me with something?
No, I'm not scaring you with
All right,
anything.
go. What are we doing? GOAT talk with Son.
There it is.
All right, I got it.
I got you this time.
All right, so we've decided this season we're going to talk about NFL teams, the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Yep.
Today we're going to go with the GOAT of the Dallas Cowboys in terms of quarterback.
Okay.
Let me just list them just in case you don't know. You're young. Troy Aikman, Tony Romo. We got Roger Staubach, Danny White, who was also a kicker, by the way. Jason Garrett, Don Meredith. The list goes on and on. Can you pick one for GOAT?
I mean, the fact that, not that I don't know them, but because they haven't had a good quarterback since.
That's true.
Now, give it to Dak
Prescott.
Prescott.
Come on.
He's still got time. He still has time, but they haven't had maybe a good team around their quarterback in quite some time.
That I can agree, yes.
For longevity and for memorability, you would think, there's Tony Romo there, obviously.
Right.
I think, though, if you're going to talk the GOAT and talk about the only one that actually got you the ring that you keep clamoring over as Cowboys fans and you keep, using in every argument, then it's got to be Roger Staubach.
I thought you were actually going to go with Troy Aikman.
No.
Okay, no, I think you're for me, and you talk about the history of the game and what people like to latch on to when you think about the Dallas Cowboys and what really kind of got them going. Don Meredith was awesome, but I think there was that age in the 70s and stuff where Roger Staubach had to go and play these games against the Vikings and the Steelers. And when I think about Roger Staubach and what he brought to the game and how he helped elevate pocket passing.
Yeah.
He was going to stand in the pocket. He was going to throw. He didn't run
at
all. So I think, in terms of the Dallas Cowboys and who they are as, America's team, back in the day at least, I think people could latch on to Roger Staubach, much like they did Joe Namath or something like that. So, listen, Troy Aikman, He has the Super Bowl wins.
Yeah.
Phenomenal quarterback, and to me, one of the best broadcasters.
Yeah.
When it comes to calling football, I love listening to him and stuff like that. But to me, yeah, Roger.
I think he started off that Cowboys dynasty, right?
Right, I agree.
Think
Yep.
You talk about
When they started to make their mark, I think.
I believe is that. So you talk about Troy Aikman, though. I do think it is back and forth a little bit, but I do think for who he was playing against and playing with on his teams as well.
But Troy had Emmett. He had Michael,
right?
So he had the team. He had the talent around him.
Yeah, where Roger Staubach had to just go and kind of grind against really big defenses as well around that time in the NFL.
To go against the Pittsburgh defenses he went against, the Minnesota ones, the
Bears.
people leaders, the Bears. I think, and Roger, he also just had this, as you watched him, and I watched him play, and interacting with the media and stuff, there's the epitome of just a good guy.
Yeah.
And a man who just was centered in who he was and knowing that he led the Dallas Cowboys. So I think we can agree there. Absolutely. All right. Let's switch up. Talk tennis.
Okay.
This is, you call that racket music?
You call that racket music.
All right. Got it?
Nice dad joke.
All right. It's old man's
today
joke.
we're discussing the disparity between men's and women's prize money. The debate is, should women's tennis players earn equal prize money? For me, this is easy. It's not really a debate. Yes, they should. I don't see any. It's not like you can make the argument with WNBA and NBA, which are starting to kind of level out in popularity. Obviously, the WNBA has a while to go.
Right.
But when you talk about tennis, I mean, that is the one sport that I've always looked at where the men's competition and the women's competition is just as engaging, it's just as effective, and it's just, I mean, you talk about it, there's a lot more people that know about the Williams sisters,
I was gonna
nationally and internationally.
And I go back and think about, America, and I think about American tennis players, and, I think of Chris Everett. And I even go back to, Billie Jean King.
Yeah.
To me, she was, to me, an icon for me in terms of tennis.
Yeah.
Whether men's or women's. I don't know if you're probably too young. She played Bobby Riggs in the Houston Astrodome. Mm-hmm. He said I could beat her with one hand tied behind my back.
Yeah.
And she, she went out there and took care of what needed to be taken care of. So I think you're exactly right. I think when you talk about the branding of tennis, I could, in the past 10 years ago, I could name more of the female players. And we go back to, Martina Navratilova. We talk about Chris Everett. We talk about, Venus. We talk about Serena.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. John McEnroe.
Roger Federer. Obviously there are, but
there are, and I get it. But when you win Wimbledon, you've all played the same amount of or matches.
Yeah.
You may have not played as many sets or as many games or something like that, but at the end of the day, you've all got to take a certain way to get there.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're going to give them, I think their trophy's actually smaller.
That's
so. And I mean, so what are you doing?
Yeah, to me, the fact that I didn't even honestly know that there was that big of a disparity between. Now that might be more from ignorance, but I didn't think there was a difference between the purses for either because, like I said, there's all these other sports. There's not really professional softball. Women's soccer, men's soccer. There's big differences, but when it comes to tennis, that's been like always thought of. All right, women's tennis. Men's tennis, they have that. It's not the PGA, and then
You're not thinking the Wimbledon champ here and the Wimbledon champ here, or the French Open here and the French Open here. You don't.
No.
And to do that is incredibly wrong. And for the the blood, sweat, and tears that the women put to do that.
Yeah.
And the training and to go through it and so and like I said, I think when we talk about the trajectory of women's tennis and men's tennis. The last 10 years, the women's trajectory for tennis has been a heck of a lot more than the men's.
Yeah.
So overall, I think it's got to be the women.
Yeah, that music sounds like racket to me.
It does it?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dad, let's do this one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it is broke, then I can just call you and have you fix it for me, right?
Yeah, like your mom, she's more handy than I am. You know that.
So the topic is sports trophies.
Sort of like the GOAT discussion, but let's do it for trophies.
All right.
So what is the greatest sports trophy out there? And if you think about it, I mean, we're talking about Lombardi Trophy.
Yep.
Golden Glove.
Yep.
The FIFA World Cup Trophy.
The Heisman, Larry O'Brien.
Right.
The Olympic gold medal.
The green jacket, the Stanley Cup, the Heisman. I like that, but my knee hurts when I do that. Unfortunately. Be careful. All right, go. What do you think?
I mean, for me, it's the Stanley Cup, right? And I think not only for just how big it is, how much it has around it. They carve the names there, of all the winners. And there's so much around it, too. Like, there's a order that you have to have the players touch the trophy that is just known throughout hockey. The senior players get to touch it first, right? You don't talk about it. And it goes over the whole playoffs are called the Stanley Cup Finals, right? They go through it. No other trophy in my opinion, hasn't that much there and that much presence, and it just looks so cool too. You can drink beer out of it if you want to. Like it's just.
Why? I mean, is
that's
that what the young people think?
Let's
think drink out of it. It's just a sacred trophy. Let's drink out of it, right?
It's different from other trophies where it is just that. You're not giving out a bunch of different trophies to all the people who have won it. It's just the Stanley Cup.
Okay, I'm gonna shift here a little bit in terms of that.
Yeah.
So you drink out of it. Isn't that kind of like disrespecting the trophy?
The Patriots are throwing, and the Bucks are throwing the Vince Lombardi trophy from one boat to the other. What do you mean disrespecting, right?
I got it.
Come on, and they're hockey players. What do you? That's part of their tradition. I think it's such a.
It's
cool
some of the
trophy.
best TV.
Yeah,
is
right?
to watch them do that. I want to know if there's scotch in there or something else, just other than beer.
Yeah.
Maybe so. All right, I'm going Indy 500, the
Okay.
Borg Warner Trophy.
Okay.
To me, and being a race fan, I'm a little biased, but that trophy, with the history of the Indy 500, all the great names that are on there, but every face is carved in that trophy.
Is cool. That's cool.
So you have like the NFL Hall of Fame, but it's on the trophy, and the guy adds to it every year.
Yeah.
So when the trophies, when the Indy 500 is being, is wrapping up, they always put the name on. Of course, they don't do the face that quick. But when I think about iconic trophies and that trophy sitting on, the bricks at the start finish line at the Brickyard, is pretty awesome. And go ahead.
I say now I will say along that line, if you don't know a lot about NASCAR, look into NASCAR's trophies for their races because they have some of the most unique ones. Martinsville is a grandfather clock. North Wilkesboro is a moonshine still. These are the actual trophies that have the name on it.
Yeah.
Look up Daytona.
And their championship trophy, or at least back in the day, ended up having like the trophy itself, but it had every track like carved in it.
Yeah, some of those could be up there too.
Yep. All right. Hey, well, that's it for Talking Sports with my dad for today.
Except
I know, that's fine. Just go.
Right?
Read the prompter. Go.
We have a new logo, too. We can do it. All right, thanks for joining us. If you have any topics you want us to debate, please hit us up on all of our socials.